everyone. Welcome to another episode of Understanding the World with Lea Iman. In this episode, I would like to talk to you about a topic of actuality that is of extreme importance for global security, and that is the possible invasion of the United States of America to Mexico. Why is it very important? Because Mexico is at the center of the sovereignty issue worldwide, and it is also the entrance to Latin America. The traditional allies of Mexico are the Latino countries, so all Latin American countries, as well as Russia and China. So that is why it's extremely important and extremely dangerous to witness what we're witnessing right now. It's also dangerous for the United States of America because there are 80 million people, I'm not sure if it was Latinos or Mexicans, living in the US, American citizens, American Mexican citizens, and Latino citizens that will retaliate in case Mexico is invaded. So it's extremely dangerous on so many fronts. And on this video, I want to touch exactly the topic of the real reasons behind the invasion, and to remove this myth, to talk about the myth of the cartels, because it's an alibi, as a lot of people know. The specialists of political science all know that this is another alibi, just like Iraq and Afghanistan with the mass destruction weapons that never existed and the terrorists that they created. So let's first start by addressing the topic at its root, about the history of fentanyl and these drugs and who is behind them, right? Fentanyl is a drug that is extremely destructive. We all agree. It's a drug that was created by pharmaceutical companies from the United States. So we're contrary to the propaganda that's being fed to you, fentanyl is not created by the cartel. Fentanyl is not created by Mexico, and it was not created by China. It was created by big pharma. So official pharma companies from the US created fentanyl, and it was prescribed by American doctors to patients, just like they prescribe marijuana. American society has become a very sedated society, a very violent society. And that's because the government wants to sedate it. They don't want you to retaliate. They don't want you to rebel. So one of the agendas was to sedate the American public, society in general. So it's not really a Mexican issue if we want to look at it from the source, the core level, okay? So that's number one. Number two, Mexico and the cartels are not really the issue here, and they're not coming for the cartels. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if they were coming for the cartels, and if the true issue was drugs, they would start with the cartels in the United States of America. Not only the Mexican cartels, but the Italian and the Jewish cartels and so many other cartels that are operating in the United States, that are creating violence in the United States. American society is a very violent society. From mass shootings to gang members killing each other, this is something that existed. It's way more violent than Mexico. And I tell you this from a personal opinion, even if I'm not supposed to give a personal opinion in political analysis, but because I do live in Mexico, so for a very long time, so I do know Mexican society and how it operates, and I'm a woman, and I feel way safer here than in the US. So the propaganda and everything that's being fed to you is really not the truth. The truth is a lot of people feel way safer here. And that's because the cartels have a moral code. So I'm not trying to defend them here because I don't agree with the majority of stuff they do. But They are part of the Mexican paradigm, and they do protect society, and they do not touch innocent people. So if you don't go around selling drugs and competing with them in their own market and looking for trouble, you're not going to have any trouble in Mexico. And that's why a lot of people love it here. A lot of foreigners move to Mexico and feel safe in Mexico. And it's the opposite of what people think. While in the US, you see mass shootings, you see a lot of things happen that don't make people feel safe. It's really an unsafe society. Police brutality is crazy. The race for money is crazy. Everything is more expensive. The quality of life and the happiness, the overall happiness of American society is very low compared to Mexican society, and there is a reason why. For those who criticize the Mexican government and call it a narco cartel, a narco government, I would like to say that they are completely wrong, because no other government has fought the cartels like this Mexican government. More than 10,000 people were killed and arrested since Lopez Obrador, which is the president that just left before Claudia Sheinbaum, started his mandate. 10,000. And hundreds, if not thousands of tons of drugs were caught. It's a constant war. They are doing their best, because I see it. I'm in front line here. I see what's going on. I'm not fooled by propaganda. And as I said again, the cartels, if you want to compare both evils, if you want to compare the violence in the US and the Mexican and the American government, that doesn't really have a moral code. And we can see that with the war crimes that were committed all over the world. With the lesser evil that are the cartels here, the majority of people will choose a cartel. Why? Because at least there's a moral code. When somebody rapes a child here, the cartel takes them, executes them. So they act like agents of equilibrium in a way, and justice in a way. So they're like the punishers of society, of the people who do wrong. While on the other hand, the American government has been caught trafficking children, has been caught with war crimes, has been caught trafficking drugs from Afghanistan. And that's the real reason why they went there. I did this study back in the days about the Afghanistan war and the real reason why they went to Afghanistan. And it's not what people think. We all know that Osama bin Laden was a CIA agent. He was created by the US. So people went there and fought a war that was not a true war. They were given an excuse that didn't exist. How many US soldiers had to lose their lives in Iraq for mass destruction weapons that never existed? How many American soldiers had to lose their life in Afghanistan just to realize that they were used to bring opium and hashish from Afghanistan to the US that was being trafficked by the government? So how can they come and police the world if they are the narcos to start with? If they were really about the narcos, then they would start with their own country. They would freeze the bank accounts of the dealers. They would find the dealers. They would stop supplying weapons to the cartels in Mexico. So the problem is really within. That's what should be taken care of. This video has the purpose of informing the general public, including the American public, about the real reasons why they're coming to Mexico. It's not for the cartels. And I want to warn everybody that there is an agenda of human depopulation and reduction in the US. So they want that. They come in here to invade Mexico, to create a retaliation in the US, and it's all part of the plan, and to create a civil war in the US so they can reduce population. This is all part of the agenda. I was an insider. And I know what I'm talking about. I studied enough these topics to tell you that the whole narrative of fighting the cartels is bullshit. That's not the real reason why they're coming here. They're coming here because they need Mexican gold. They need Mexican oil. They need Mexican lithium for Tesla and for other companies. And they don't really have the money to pay for it because a lot of governments are requiring gold as payment since they all realize that the US is printing money. So the biggest debt in the world and humanity's history is the US debt to China, and China wants its money back. We're talking about several trillions of dollars. But they don't want their money back with fake paper. They want their money back in gold. And Mexico has just discovered the biggest gold reserve in the world. So it does make sense, doesn't it? Why they want to invade right now and betray their ally and the country that fed them for so many years. If they were really about the cartels, they would fix it in their home, in their country, which is what I still recommend, even if Donald Trump already signed an authorization to invade Mexico. This message goes to US soldiers as well who are watching this. How many of you still need to die based on a lie to make a few rich people richer? Because we all know that these wars only benefit entrepreneurs and big elite people that are owners of these companies that will get richer. They're going to use the same weapons that you're going to take from the cartels and unarm them to take you out. You know why? Because they have an army of robots to replace you. That's the plan. That's the goal. How many of you still need to die believing a lie? Wasn't Saddam Hussein enough? Wasn't the lie of mass destruction enough? And the terrorists they created in Afghanistan enough? Since we all know that bin Laden was an agent, Al-Qaeda was an operation, 9/11 was an inside job, your own government is betraying you. The whole agenda is to concentrate power in the hands of very few people and kill the rest of you. And I know it's going to sound crazy, but that's the plan because you are useless. They already have robots to replace you. So all of this is just going to create a civil war. It's going to make people in the US, it's going to make people richer. A few technocrats richer, and it's going to reduce the population in the US. It's going to strip you from your power. It's going to make you weaker. And it's going to make them stronger. Humanity has to understand that the enemy is the same. Humanity has to unite. It's beyond borders now. You have to understand that you cannot come here and kill innocent Mexican people and expect no retaliation. Let's not forget the history of Mexico and how they were invaded by the US and kicked their ass. And the Americans had to leave and go back home. That's where the term green go comes from. Green, like the uniform, go home. Let's not forget, we have to learn from war history. And we have to come back to our senses right now. We have to educate ourselves because ignorance is what makes them have power. Because when you don't know and you think Mexican people are narcos and they're destroying your country, and it's wrong. And it's not the truth because the people who are destroying your country are in your country. They are the ones supplying weapons to the cartels. They're the ones buying the drugs and the children. And that's your American elite. So if you're a true patriot, you need to hold the right people accountable. You can't go to your friends across the border and kill them wrongfully, because that's going to backfire and ultimately that's your life. You can't even come here and die. For what? To make other people richer? Because you're not going to get anything from that. You're going to get a little tiny piece, okay, a salary. But the end goal is to wipe you out of the map. When they're not going to need you anymore, you're gone. You're willing to participate in a war to come and destroy your brothers and sisters and create a civil war in your country, because that is inevitable. That's what's going to happen. It's going to backfire. It's going to create a civil war in the US. Mark my words. All my predictions have come true, whether the predictions of the war in Ukraine, Afghanistan, Iraq. I'm going to publish my publications again. I received some threats and I took them down. But I think the world is awakening, including members of the army. Stop fighting wars that are not your wars, because the war is humanity against these people that have stripped you of your power for so long, that killed your brothers in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places wrongfully and made you kill innocent Muslims wrongfully. So let's learn from the lessons of the past. It's still possible to stop the madness. It's still possible to come back to cooperation if the US needs those resources, because we know that there is the sector of the military sector of weapons is going through a crisis right now because they're running out of rubber, and that's another reason why they want to come to Mexico. So, and they want to unarm the cartel to take those weapons, and that's the reason why they're also asking the Taliban to give them back the arsenal and the weapons, because nobody is willing to sell them rubber anymore, because everybody's sick and tired of these wars and this crazy imperialism. This is a virus that's killing our planet. Do not be part of it. Help your government come back to reason, come back to cooperation, and we can all together participate into creating a better world instead of destroying ourselves and the world, because that's ultimately what's going to happen. The US government is going to auto-destroy with these deadly mistakes of stepping into Mexico. I can guarantee you that. So if you don't want to see the White House on fire, don't play with fire. Don't cross to Mexico. We can handle our own problems. Thank you very much. Have a great day.